The Star Trek movies failed only one member of the Enterprise's original core trio. When Star Trek, the motion picture, hit theaters in 1979, it promised a bold new voyage for the crew of the Starship Enterprise. The TV series that defined 1960s science fiction had finally gone cinematic. The crew returned older, wiser, and ready to boldly go once again. Yet across 6 classic films and several appearances beyond, the movies managed to honor 2 of the franchise's most beloved characters beautifully, while leaving one of the original trio behind. Captain James T. Kirk, Mr. Spock, and Dr. Leonard Bones M.C. Coy, the brain, the soul, and the heart of the original Enterprise, were always meant to be inseparable. Their dynamic was the emotional engine of Star Trek, the original series. But when the series transitioned to film, the balance shifted. Kirk became the tragic hero, Spock became the mystic and philosopher, and M.C. Coy, he became at best a sidekick. Despite being one of Star Trek's most compelling and complex figures, Dr. M.C. Coy was consistently sidelined by the movies. The cinematic Star Trek universe failed its most human member, the man who reminded the crew and the audience what they were fighting for. Kirk and Spock got grand arcs. M.C. Coy got quips. It's not that M.C. Coy is absent from the films. DeForest Kelley appears in all 6 of the original cast movies, his southern drawl and sardonic humor often the highlight. But when you look closer at his role, a pattern emerges. He's nearly always reduced to comic relief or exposition. Meanwhile, Kirk and Spock are handed sweeping, operatic character arcs. In the motion picture, Kirk wrestles with aging, obsolescence, and his obsessive drive to command. He's no longer the brash young officer from the 5-year mission. He's an admiral grasping for relevance. Spock, on the other hand, embarks on a spiritual odyssey, trying to purge his human side, until realizing that emotion gives his life meaning. Their journeys intertwine. Kirk's rediscovery of purpose mirrors Spock's rediscovery of self. But M.C. Coy's inclusion feels perfunctory. He's there to deliver a few zingers about Starfleet bureaucracy and to roll his eyes at Kirk's recklessness. The film reintroduces him in a great gag, beamed aboard in 1970s disco leisureware. But once the laughs fade, M.C. Coy fades with them. By the Wrath of Khan, things improve slightly. M.C. Coy has more to do, offering moral grounding for Kirk as he faces mortality and the ghost of an old enemy. He warns Kirk about turning death into a fighting chance to live, a line that could have come from any philosopher, not just a doctor. Yet, even in this fan-favorite installment, M.C. Coy's purpose is limited to being Kirk's emotional translator. He's there to comment on the hero's struggles, not to have any of his own. Spocketh and Resurrection cemented the imbalance. The trilogy of the Wrath of Khan, The Search for Spock, and The Voyage Home effectively became the Spock saga. And while it's one of the most satisfying arcs in science fiction, it came at a cost. M.C. Coy's character was literally hijacked by the plot. When Spock sacrifices himself at the end of the Wrath of Khan, his katra, the essence of his mind, is transferred into M.C. Coy. On paper, this should have been a golden opportunity. Imagine exploring what it means for M.C. Coy, the most emotional and human of men, to share consciousness with a being who represents logic and control. It could have been a profound duality, a merging of 2 philosophies that defined Star Trek from the beginning. Instead, the search for Spock turns M.C. Coy's possession into a running joke. He's treated as a punchline, stumbling around, muttering in Spock's voice, locked up by Starfleet security for acting irrationally. The psychological horror of losing control of one's mind, of carrying a friend's consciousness inside one's own, is barely touched upon. DeForest Kelley does what he can with the material, occasionally hinting at deeper pain. It's his revenge for all those arguments he lost. But the film never allows the story to dwell there. By the time Spock is resurrected, M.C. Coy is simply relieved to be himself again. Then, just like that, the potential for one of Star Trek's most introspective storylines vanishes. M.C. Coy becomes himself again, but the movies never let him grow from the experience. The Voyage Home showed M.C. Coy's humanity. Briefly, if any film in the series got close to honoring M.C. Coy's unique voice, it was Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home. Set against the whimsical backdrop of 20th century San Francisco, it gave the good doctor space to shine. His outrage at the barbaric state of 20th century medicine, my God, man, drilling holes in his head's not the answer, was both hilarious and quintessentially M.C. Coy. For once, the film leaned into his compassion rather than just his sarcasm. He wasn't simply the grumpy counterpoint to Kirk's charisma or Spock's logic. He was the conscience of the group, reminding us that progress means nothing without empathy. But the film still positioned him as part of the ensemble, not a central pillar. The emotional through line belonged to Spock, his recovery, his friendship with Kirk, his relearning of human connection. McCoy was again the observer, the voice on the sidelines offering common sense commentary. The Final Frontier tried to correct course but missed the mark. Ironically, the one Star Trek movie directed by William Shatner, The Final Frontier, was the first to truly try giving McCoy a meaningful emotional story. In one of the film's rare moments of depth, the false prophet Sibic forces the crew to confront their greatest pain. For McCoy, that means reliving the death of his father, a man he euthanized to end his suffering, only to learn soon after that a cure had been found. Kelly delivers the moment with quiet devastation. You can see decades of guilt in his eyes, the anguish of a man who dedicated his life to healing, but couldn't save the one person who mattered most. It's a beautiful scene, arguably the most human moment in the entire film. For a brief instant, McCoy steps out of the shadow of Kirk and Spock, and the audience glimpses the complexity behind his irascible exterior. Unfortunately, The Final Frontier buries that emotional core beneath chaotic direction and muddled storytelling. The script never lets the moment resonate. McCoy's pain is treated as another item on Sibic's checklist of personal revelations. By the next scene, he's cracking jokes again. What could have been a turning point, a chance to deepen McCoy's worldview, dissolves into the background noise of an overstuffed, undercooked movie. By the end, he was a relic, not a character. By The Undiscovered Country, the sixth and final film, McCoy is reduced almost to a ceremonial presence. He has a few sharp lines, "What is it with you anyway?" He snaps at Spock, but he's largely there for nostalgia. The story is concerned with geopolitics, peace treaties, and the future of the Federation, weighty themes, but ones that leave little room for a country doctor from Georgia. When Kirk and McCoy are imprisoned on Rurapent, the film teases a chance for them to reconnect as old comrades facing death together. Yet even then, McCoy's role is passive. He patches Kirk's wounds, grumbles about their predicament, and fades back into the ensemble as the plot barrels toward resolution. When the crew bids farewell to the Enterprise at the end of the film, Spock and Kirk share the emotional spotlight. McCoy stands beside them, smiling wistfully, but the movies never gave him a true farewell. No closure, no reflection, no summation of the man who had always been the show's conscience. Why it matters? McCoy was the audience's anchor. The tragedy of McCoy's cinematic underuse isn't just about screen time. It's about what Star Trek lost when it sidelined him. In a series that often explored the tension between logic and emotion, McCoy was the necessary third point of balance. Kirk represented action, instinct, drive, command. Spock represented intellect, logic, reason, restraint. McCoy represented morality, the compassion that kept both from losing their humanity. Without him as an equal force, the films leaned heavily toward mythic heroism and stoic spirituality. They became stories of gods and legends, not explorers and friends. McCoy was the reminder that Star Trek wasn't just about galaxies and starships. It was about the people who traveled them, flawed and feeling. When